Hello everyone and welcome back to another storytime video. Today I talked about what private school was like for me in my years of going there up until high school. Now, the biggest thing that I didn't have to deal with, well, I guess I didn't have to deal with, if you want to put it that way, when I went to public school in high school was the annual science fair. Now, in kindergarten and first grade, I know that the teacher kind of did the science fair and the kids would participate a little bit. Second grade, I don't remember if that was the case or not, but I do remember in third grade, started to have to do our own solo science fair projects. Now, I think that the science fair counted for something like 30% of our science grade, 25, something like that. So, if you, for some reason, didn't do the science fair experiment, then you would have to pretty much get perfect a perfect science grade throughout the whole year in order to pass science. And even then, you would only pass it with like a D. So the science fair, it was like it was a large part of our grade. So there were years where I really didn't want to do it, especially as I got closer and closer to high school. I just didn't want to do it. But I'm going to talk about a couple of science fair experiments that I remember doing. And, I guess you guys are welcome to use any of the ideas that I used, or that my dad and I used back when I was a kid. So, I remember back, and by the way, before I get into the meat of the story, I just want to also say that the science fair would take place in late January. I was about to say June. No. It always took place in late January, which is, now that I look back on it, I just kind of question why, but like I don't understand why you wouldn't have it at the end of the year, but hey, I wasn't paid to make those decisions. But it was in late January, which was bizarre to me, but oh well. I remember in the third grade, I did a science fair experiment on different types of throwing motions, like just straight Hail Mary, sideways, overhand, and as a kid, my arm strength was not that great, so I don't remember what the numbers came out as way back then, because that was a long time ago, but it wasn't that great. And I remember another year, which that different throwing motions with the football came like third place, I think. But in 2 or 3 years later, or maybe it was even 4, but a few years later, my dad had the idea to, or I think my mom had this idea, and my dad was like, hey, that's not bad. Where he and I looked at, or tested the acidity of an apple and an orange, and we called it comparing apples to oranges. It's just a very basic thing. Like, hey, we all know that the an orange and a lemon and a lime are more acidic than an apple, but there's that. I think one year we had an idea of making a potato maze. I'm pretty sure that if you or your kids done a science fair for their school or your school, then you've thought about that very thing before, but because we would have had to have it done in late January, we didn't have enough time where the weather was warm enough. But yeah, I remember every I mean, I'm kind of ashamed that I don't exactly remember all the science fair projects that I did back as a kid, but that's partly because I hated doing the science fair. I absolutely hated it. And because of that, I guess I just kind of forgot about him right away. So, I mean, that's a shame that I did, but you can't really go back and change the course of time. But what I do remember is that every year everyone would have their trifold poster board, that white trifold board, and we'd all be set up in the cafeteria. Oh man, those were some good old days, man. Not that I hate not that I hate where I am right now. It's just that sometimes I like to reminisce about what used to be. But and I've been trying to remember over the past couple of weeks too. Like ever since I talked about going to private school last storytime video, I was like, hey, what definite thing happened in private school that not everyone is exposed to uh, in school that people would be interested in? Oh, I got it! The science fair! So that's why I decided to talk about it today. And I don't know, maybe I might remember some more cases eventually, and maybe I will retell the story some other time. But as of right now, those are the only two times that I can remember. Or those are the only science fair projects that I can remember of right now. And CS guys, I do believe that will do it for this storytime video. And like storytime video, I will see you all later. Goodbye, guys. Thank you all for watching.